Reese walked onto a car lot to buy a used sedan, did real research beforehand, knew the fair market value was around $14,000, and walked out having paid $17,000. Reese also negotiated hard, even got the sticker price down from $22,000 to $17,000. Felt genuinely proud of it in the parking lot. Told friends about the $5,000 discount for weeks afterward. Reese won the negotiation and still overpaid by $3,000. Both of those things are true at the same time. And the reason they're both true has a name. And it's been demonstrated in a laboratory so many times that it's barely considered debatable anymore. It's called anchoring, and it's one of the strangest, most reliable biases in the entire field of behavioral economics. Because it works even when you know it's working. Here's the original demonstration from Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. In research published in 1974, they asked people a simple factual question: what percentage of countries in the United Nations are African? Before answering, participants watched a wheel of fortune spin, landing on a number except the wheel was secretly rigged to only ever land on either 10 or 65. Then they answered the question. People who saw the wheel land on 10 guessed a low percentage. People who saw it land on 65 guessed a high percentage. The wheel had nothing whatsoever to do with African nations, or the United Nations, or anything remotely related to the actual question. Participants knew that. They could see it was a random spinning wheel, and it still moved their answer by a wide, measurable margin, in the exact direction the meaningless number pointed. The size of the effect is what made the finding so striking. This wasn't a small nudge. The average estimate from the group that saw 10 was roughly half the average estimate from the group that saw 65. Produced entirely by a number everyone in the room understood, consciously, to be random. Kahneman later described the result as almost embarrassing to the idea of rational judgment, precisely because the participants weren't fooled about where the number came from. They simply couldn't stop it from moving their answer anyway. That's anchoring in its purest form. The first number you're exposed to, even an obviously irrelevant one, quietly becomes the starting point your brain measures everything afterward against, and the mind does this automatically, before you've consciously decided the number deserves any weight at all. Now put that mechanism inside a car dealership. The sticker price isn't a fact about the car's value. It's a number chosen, deliberately, to become your anchor. $22,000 wasn't what the dealer expected to get. It was the wheel of fortune, spun on purpose, landing exactly where the dealer wanted it to land. Before Reese had said a single word, every negotiating move Reese made after that happened inside the shadow of that number. 17,000 felt like a win because it was 5,000 less than 22. It never got compared to 14,000, the actual fair value Reese had researched beforehand, because the anchor had already quietly redefined what counted as the starting point for the entire conversation. The real number, the one Reese walked in already knowing, got mentally filed away, overwhelmed by the much louder, much closer anchor sitting right there on the windshield. This is precisely why skilled negotiators, on the other side of nearly every transaction, open aggressively high, or aggressively low, almost as a matter of routine. Not because they expect to get that number, because they understand, whether or not they could explain the research behind it, that whoever sets the first number quietly sets the emotional finish line for the entire negotiation that follows. There's a specific study that makes this even harder to shrug off, because it targeted the exact group of people who should have been immune to it. Researchers Gregory Northcraft and Margaret Neal gave real estate agents, actual licensed professionals, a full walkthrough of a house, and detailed listing information. The only thing that varied between groups was the listing price shown on the sheet. Agents who saw a higher listing price gave higher valuation estimates. Agents who saw a lower listing price gave lower ones. When asked afterward what had influenced their estimate, the agents overwhelmingly pointed to their professional judgment, the comparable sales, their years of experience. Almost none of them named the listing price itself, even though it was the one variable the researchers had deliberately changed. Expertise didn't cancel out the anchor. It just made people more confident in an estimate that had, provably, been shifted by a number they didn't consciously register as relevant. This detail matters more than it might seem at first. It would be one thing if anchoring only fooled people who genuinely didn't know better. It's a very different thing to learn that professional experience. The exact expertise you'd expect to override a random number on a page didn't reduce the effect at all. If anything, the agent's confidence in their own biased number was part of what made it so hard to catch. Nobody in that study felt like they were guessing. Every one of them felt certain, using their expertise, about a figure that had already been quietly moved before they ever walked through the door. This is what makes anchoring different from most other financial mistakes covered on this channel. It doesn't require you to be uninformed, distracted, or careless. Reese did the research. Reese knew the real number. The anchor won anyway, not because the preparation was wasted, but because anchoring doesn't operate on the knowledge you have. It operates on the number you saw first. And knowledge sits in a completely different part of the decision than the anchor does, which is exactly why being smart and being informed turned out not to be enough on their own to beat it. So here's the actual defense. And it's less about willpower and more about sequencing. Before you see any number in a negotiation, a sticker price, an asking price, an opening offer, decide, in writing if possible, what you believe the fair number actually is, based on research done before the anchor ever entered the room. Then, once the anchor does show up, don't measure your progress against it. Measure every offer, including your own, only against the number you wrote down first, the one that existed before anyone had a chance to move it. Reese's mistake wasn't failing to research. It was letting the dealer's number become the measuring stick after the research was already done. The $14,000 figure was accurate and completely irrelevant to how Reese actually felt in that parking lot, because the sticker price had already, silently, replaced it as the number Reese's brain was comparing everything to. This shows up far beyond car lots. A salary negotiation anchored by whatever number a recruiter says first, before you've stated your own. It was $200. Now $99 sale tag, where the crossed-out number does all the emotional work, regardless of whether the item was ever really worth $200 to begin with. Anywhere a number gets shown to you before you've had a chance to form your own, that first number is quietly doing more work than almost anyone gives it credit for. The fix was never outsmarting the anchor once it's already in the room. It's making sure your own number exists first, on paper, before the room gets a chance to hand you theirs. There's a reason writing the number down matters more than just thinking it. A number held only in your head is soft, easy for a louder, more confident number to quietly override the moment it shows up. A number written down before you walked in stays exactly where you left it, unmoved by whatever gets said across the table, available to check yourself against instead of drifting toward whatever anchor arrived first. It's a small, almost trivial sounding habit. It's also the only part of this entire mechanism that's actually within your control. Since you can't stop someone else from setting an anchor, but you can absolutely stop it from being the only number in the room. If this changed how you think about the next number someone shows you first, subscribe, because we'll keep telling these stories the psychology first, the money second, the same way we always have. Same honest stories, same simple truth. See you in the next one.